to say that your talk really resonated with me.
Yeah.
And it was funny when you talked about how society sets up a certain system of always being busy.
Yeah.
Um, it reminds me, 7 years ago, I think, I went on a 10-day Vipassana silent retreat.
Yeah.
And there was this incessant voice in my head saying, okay, let's go home, meditate for 2 hours, and work 10 hours so you actually get something done. And I realized, like, this is not just a voice in my head. This is in the entire society. If
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
how it is in France or the UK, but it used to be normal when you meet someone. It's like, how are you doing? It's like, yeah, yeah, busy, busy, as if
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the way to say, yes,
Good.
I'm worthy or
Yeah.
something. Like, I'm not just a leech to society. I'm actually doing
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Um, so I was in a privileged position because I was working for myself to decide, like, okay, I have to deal with this.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, for 2 weeks straight, I'm just gonna sit on my couch and maybe walk in the park. And every time I have the desire to do something, I'll just sit with that instead
Yeah.
of actually acting on it.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks turned into a year and a half.
Oh wow. Wow.
Luckily, I live next to the park, so that's mostly where I spend.
Yeah.
And it was funny. It was this certain moment when early morning, and I didn't have any income. So at a certain moment, I was really like, am I going to pay rent this month? Um, and I was walking in the morning. There was this bench with a few guys who were drinking beer, clearly already drunk, at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I was just completely happy, okay with life. And this one guy, he looks at me and he says, "You must be filthy rich." That was his only conclusion, like why someone could be that completely relaxed and happy in life. And yeah, I thought it was very fitting to see how the perception of society
Yeah.
is.
Totally. Yeah. You could only be like that. You could only be that relaxed if you're totally stinking rich.
Yeah, yeah, that's the only option.
Yeah. Funny.
So yeah, and then later on in the talk, you talked about the plexus, the solar plexus, and
Yeah.
how I think the human mind or the entire system takes on the message of. Well, I listened the last year quite a lot to Tony Parsons and Jim Newman, and
Hmm.
it also to Paul Morgan Summers. And there's this, when it resonates and the clarity is there, there's so clear that this is the truth,
Yeah.
and there's nothing more to add, right?
Yeah.
There's just this.
Yeah. Just this. Yeah.
But when the person comes back, or when the brain starts to make sense of it, it incorporates it into its
Yeah.
own system. And then I actually felt what you were saying, this plexus, kind of like hopelessness, giving up, like, yeah, what's the
Hmm.
use?
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, Realizing also through talks with you, I had one other call where you said, like, yeah, this is just its way of dealing with it, but it can't see it in the
Yeah.
clarity.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I suspect that, like, with Tony's talks, like, so with what happened about sitting on your sofa and really giving up, there was still maybe a part of you that felt like you were doing that in order to advance yourself spiritually. And then when you listen to Tony's talks, it really hammers that voice in you, that last remaining voice that still wants to be something. And then the idea of giving up spirituality, or the idea of beginning up being enlightened, when the person comes back, it activates that deep sense of being a failure, of not being something, of people seeing you as a leech, like you say, of like that the solar plexus energy of depression or not being good enough. And it's Tony used to say, when I used to go and see him, he used to say, if you leave the room like believing or holding on to anything I say, then you've completely missed the point. And I think with like Neo Advaita, like when people take that personally, then it does create depression. But when you see it for what it is, like what a liberation that we're here right now with nothing. We're not liberated or unliberated. We're not free or unfree. We're just here. Just this, nothing more. Like, and this is all there is. When that's really seen for what it is, it's mystery, it's childlike wonder. When it's taken personally, then it's like, I failed, or I'm not going to make it, or it's hopeless, or there's no point in doing anything.
Yeah, that's very clear, and it's funny how it switches back and forth between this clarity that it's an undeniable truth that this is the case, and then somewhere the thought creeps in again. So it's in my story there was a certain moment when I decided, like, okay, well, when the mind is there and the belief of being someone will do something to not fall in that trap of nihilism or something like that.
And it's all around the doership. It all belongs to the solar plexus and that area of I've got to do to be, and it's total lie.
Yeah, and also you talked about creativity purely for the joy of it, or something like that. And that's reminded me of this beautiful talk by Alan Watts, who says to dance pure for the sake of dancing and not to arrive at the end. And yeah, it's beautiful.
Alan Watts is great. He's one of these speakers that can just spontaneously do these like amazing monologues, and then you put a bit of music to it and it's like another world. It's like taking or smoking a joint or something. It's really a psychedelic trip. He's really magical like that. So he does it, Alan Watts. There's some other speakers that like manage to do that. Jordan Peterson is another one that can do it. But energetically, I'm not like, I find his energy a bit heavy, but he also can just like give your brain orgasms, like the way he speaks.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't think and totally familiar with these kinds of teachings, to give it a word, but it's very on a mental level what he says, but I see so much wisdom coming through him. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, he's not embodied it.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice to speak with you. Yeah.
Likewise. All right, that was it. It was just wanted to talk about how what you said resonated with me.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. It was lovely.
Sure.
Yeah.
Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.